Most men in their 50s believe their biggest financial problem is that they did not save enough. They are wrong. The real problem is 5 specific traps that are actively draining whatever they did manage to build, and most of them cannot see it because the traps do not look like mistakes. They look like rewards. They look like things you earned. The average American worker approaching 60 has roughly $87,000 in his 401k. Retirement calculators suggest that number should be closer to $700,000. That is a $600,000 gap, and the men sitting on it have no idea it exists because on the surface everything looks fine. The house is there, the title is there, the paycheck still clears. But the math underneath tells a completely different story. Today I'm going to walk you through all 5 of these traps with real numbers, real ages, and real consequences. And by the end, you will know exactly which one is the most dangerous for your specific situation and what to do about it before the window closes. This is not motivation, this is a diagnosis. Here is the reframe that changes everything. Most men in their 50s are not failing because they lack discipline. They are failing because the math of their 50s operates on completely different rules than the math of their 30s and 40s, and nobody told them the rules changed. Not income, architecture, not effort, structure. A dollar lost at age 55 is roughly 3 times as expensive in real retirement terms as a dollar lost at age 35. At 35, your portfolio has decades to recover from a bad year. At 55, you may be 3 to 7 years from needing that money, and a bad hit right before you stop earning is brutal. Your 50s are not the back half of your earning years. They are the front half of your transition years. Every financial decision you make in this window carries weight that no prior decade carried. And yet, this is the exact decade when men feel the most pressure to spend, the most entitlement to reward themselves, and the most confidence that they have it figured out. That confidence is the problem. Not because it is wrong in spirit, but because it is disconnected from the math. The 5 traps I am about to show you all exploit that exact disconnect. Let me be direct about that. Trap number 1, the reward purchase. This is the truck, the boat, the RV, the motorcycle, the lake cabin, the country club membership. Anything expensive that a man in his 50s buys because 3 decades of work feels like it should produce some kind of visible payoff. I have watched this pattern repeat with men I personally know. A 56-year-old signs off on a $58,000 boat financed at over 7% across 10 years. His reasoning is simple. He has worked for 34 years and he is tired of waiting. 11 weeks later, his company restructures. His region gets consolidated. He is offered a severance package covering 6 months. 18 months later, he is still searching for a comparable position. The boat sits under a tarp. The best dealer offer is $38,000. He still owes $46,000. Beyond the loan, the annual carrying costs on a boat like that run about $13,000 a year in slip fees, insurance, fuel, and maintenance. Owned for 3 years and sold at a loss, you are looking at roughly $90,000 of wealth destroyed. That is approximately 2.5 years of normal savings at his income level. The trap is not that men in their 50s want nice things. The trap is that the wanting and the buying have collapsed into a single decision with no friction between them, justified by a story that says there will be plenty of time and plenty of income to recover. The version of you at 56 does not know that the version of you at 58 will be unemployed. Your spending decisions need to assume that he might be. Think about that. Trap number 2, the work until 67 assumption. This is the most expensive miscalculation in retirement planning, and almost every man in his 50s is making it. A 55-year-old IT manager at a regional bank earning $145,000 describes his retirement plan with total confidence. He will definitely work until at least 67. He says this the way you might say you will have coffee tomorrow morning. His follow-up plan is to ramp up savings during those final years, because that is when he will have the most disposable income. The data destroys this assumption. The Employee Benefit Research Institute tracks the gap between when workers expect to retire and when they actually do. The median expected retirement age among active workers is 65. Among actual retirees, the median is 62. 3 out of 5 retirees stopped working before 65. About half retired earlier than they planned. The primary causes are health problems, caregiving obligations, and employer-driven changes like layoffs and restructurings. 75% of workers say they plan to keep working in some form during retirement. Only 29% of actual retirees report doing so. That gap between expectation and reality is the entire trap. Most men in their 50s are not planning. They are deferring, pushing the hard savings work into a future decade that assumes they will have more income, more discipline, and more time. The data says that future version of them has roughly a coin flip chance of being out of the workforce before he expected. The fix requires a psychological shift that almost no one wants to make. You have to plan for the version of you that retires at 62, not the version that retires at 67. If you save enough to be secure at 62 and you end up working until 67, you get a 5-year bonus on the retirement you actually wanted. Plan for 67 and get forced out at 62, and you are 5 years behind on a plan that had no margin to begin with. That is the entire playbook. Trap number 3, the sandwich squeeze. A 54-year-old project manager earning $110,000 has 2 dependents he never expected to have at this stage of his life. His 81-year-old mother has mild dementia and lives in assisted living that costs about $5,800 a month. He covers roughly $2,200 of that after her Social Security and pension handle the rest. On top of that, his 28-year-old daughter moved back home after a divorce with her 3-year-old son. She contributes what she can while finishing a nursing degree. He has been quietly draining his retirement accounts to keep all of this running, and he is going to be in serious trouble within about 4 years if nothing changes. This is not an unusual situation. Research from AARP shows there are approximately 63 million family caregivers in the United States, an increase of about 20 million over the last decade. The average caregiver spends around $7,200 a year out of pocket on care-related expenses for an adult relative. For those dealing with dementia or serious mental health conditions, that number rises to roughly $9,000. Nearly half of caregivers under 50 are simultaneously raising a child under 18. The sandwich generation gets compressed from both directions at exactly the decade when aggressive saving matters most. The hardest part is that there is no clean financial solution because the core problem is emotional, not mathematical. He knows the math. He knows his retirement is bleeding out. He also cannot tell his mother to move to a cheaper facility. He cannot tell his daughter to figure things out on her own. And he is not going to. The question for men in this position is not whether to help. It is how to help without going down with the ship. That requires 3 conversations almost no man in his 50s wants to have. One with your parents about their actual financial picture. One with your adult children about a realistic timeline for independence. And one with yourself about an annual dollar cap you will actually enforce. You cannot fund 3 retirements from one income. The math supports one fully funded retirement with modest supplements to 2 others. Try to fully fund all 3, and the only one you actually control fails. After that, nobody gets supported and nobody retires. Trap number 4, concentrated company stock. A 57-year-old senior engineer has worked at the same Fortune 500 company for 31 years. He earns roughly $190,000 with bonuses. A significant portion of his net worth sits in his employer's stock, accumulated through restricted stock units, employee stock purchase plans, vested performance shares, and a 401k match that defaults into company shares. When he last reviewed his holdings with his wife, 63% of their investable assets were in that single ticker. He will tell you this is fine because he knows the company. He sees the executive team's decisions, the order pipeline, the product roadmap. But that knowledge is not unique to him. Every employee at Enron in 2001 believed those same things. So did the people at Bear Stearns in 2007. So did the long-tenured engineers at GE before its decade-long decline. The pattern never changes. The people most confident in their employer's stock are the people who work there. That is exactly the problem. Single stock concentration is dangerous on its own. It becomes catastrophic when the stock belongs to your employer because your income and your investments are now perfectly correlated. If something goes wrong with the company, you lose your paycheck and your portfolio in the same week. Standard portfolio guidance says no single stock should exceed 10 to 15% of investable assets. Men in this situation typically hold 8 to 10 times that concentration, and every one of them has a reason why their company is the exception. The fix is mechanically simple and emotionally difficult. You set up a recurring sell order through your brokerage, a fixed number of shares, automatic on a fixed date each quarter until your concentration drops below 15%. The tax hit is by design smaller than the catastrophic cost of being right about your employer until the one day you are wrong. Automation is what matters here, not timing. The version of you who has to make this decision manually next quarter is the version who will find a reason to postpone. Stop for a moment. If you hold more than 15% of your investable assets in a single company you work for, that is not loyalty. That is a concentrated bet with your entire financial future as collateral. Drop one word in the comments, your biggest blocker right now. Just one word. The Trip to Wealth Google Sheet is linked below for anyone who wants to run these numbers against their own situation. Now let us get to the part most people never reach. Trap number 5. The healthcare bridge gap. This is the trap almost nobody discusses, and it carries one of the highest price tags of all 5. A man retires at 56. His financial plan on paper looks solid. $2 million in retirement accounts, a paid-off house, Social Security starting in 9 years. He ran every number carefully. The number he did not run was healthcare. When you leave a job before age 65, you exit the employer insurance system. Unless your former company offers retiree health benefits, and according to recent KFF data, only about 27% of large firms still do, you are buying coverage on the open market. Most people end up on the Affordable Care Act marketplace, where premiums are age-rated. Federal rules allow insurers to charge people in their early 60s up to 3 times what they charge 21-year-olds. The 2026 average unsubsidized annual premium for a 60-year-old on the benchmark Silver plan is approximately $15,900, with deductibles above $5,000 on top of that. And here is where it gets worse. The enhanced premium tax credits that had been keeping marketplace coverage manageable through 2025 expired at the end of last year. Anyone with retirement income above roughly $63,000 for a single filer or $85,000 for a couple no longer qualifies for ACA subsidies at all. KFF found that the typical 60-year-old just above the income threshold is now paying about $9,600 more per year than in 2025. That man who retired at 56 pulled his tax return together and discovered his annual premium had jumped from roughly $9,000 to nearly $27,000. For 9 years of bridge coverage until Medicare, that is $250,000 that was not in his retirement plan. Let me be direct about that. If you are planning to retire before 65, the math on your bridge years should assume roughly $200,000 in healthcare costs between you and Medicare, per couple. That number lives outside your retirement portfolio and outside your spending plan. If it is not sitting in a separate account by the time you walk out of work, you are not retired. You are unemployed pretending to be retired. Think about that. Now here is the part that connects everything. None of these 5 traps looks like a financial emergency when it is happening. The reward purchase looks like something you earned. The work until 67 plan looks like responsible thinking. The sandwich squeeze looks like being a good son and a good father. The concentrated stock looks like loyalty and conviction. The healthcare gap looks like a problem you will solve later. Every single one of them operates through the same mechanism. It takes a reasonable feeling decision and attaches it to math that does not support the feeling. Not reckless decisions, not stupid decisions, decisions that felt earned, felt safe, felt like the right thing to do. And that is exactly why these 5 traps destroy more retirements than market crashes ever will. A market crash is visible. It triggers action. These traps are invisible. They trigger nothing until it is too late. Not discipline, not motivation. Architecture you were never taught. My friend, this is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Every man I have watched recover from one or more of these traps had the same starting point. He stopped managing the chaos and started changing the structure. The ones who stayed in the chaos, the ones who kept saying they would handle it next quarter, next year after the bonus, those are the ones who are still working at 68 in jobs they are too tired to enjoy. One rule: your wealth system should survive 30 days without your active attention. If it requires you to manually make decisions every month, if it depends on your willpower, your mood, your energy level after a long week, it is not a system. It is a habit, and habits break. Here are 3 questions to diagnose yourself right now. First, what percentage of your investable assets sits in a single stock? If the answer is above 15%, you have a concentration problem that needs an automated solution this quarter. Second, what is your fixed monthly obligation total as a percentage of your take-home pay? If it exceeds 55%, you do not have a spending problem. You have a structural problem. At least one obligation needs to be eliminated, not reduced in the next 6 months. Third, if you plan to retire before 65, do you have a separate funded account specifically designated for healthcare bridge costs, not folded into your retirement portfolio? Not something you plan to figure out later, a specific account with a specific number. If the answer to any of those is no, you now know exactly which trap has the tightest grip on your future. One decision. That is all this comes down to. You either build the architecture that makes these 5 traps structurally impossible, or you keep managing the chaos 1 month at a time, hoping the math works out in a decade that punishes hope more than any other. Your 50s are not the time to optimize. They are the time to architect. Every trap in this video is a version of the same error, treating a transition decade like a continuation decade. The men who arrive at 62 or 65 with real options and real peace are not the men who earned the most. They are the men who recognized the rules changed and rebuilt accordingly. The men still grinding at 68 wondering what happened are largely the men who looked the most successful at 52. Built with intention, wealth becomes irreversible. If this breakdown brought you clarity, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.